Join me today as we discuss the advancements of cell phones, telephones, car radios, the Senate hearings with RFKjr, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, and that crazy little place we call Guantanamo Bay. Ooh, stick around. You just might learn something. Welcome to the Eric T Conversation. I'm Eric T. Well, I started thinking about advancements in technology over the last 35 years, and I can't decide which one's gotten more advanced, the telephone or the car radio. So we'll break it down. So the telephone, a lot of you don't remember, it started off with the one on the wall, and you had an earpiece, and you'd ring the operator, and the operator would dispatch it through cables to whatever line you needed to go to, okay? Then it went from there, and it got some more advancement. We got fiber optic cables, started having telephones when you can actually pick up the phone and dial a number. And the numbers were rotary. Yeah, they were just rotary numbers. You know, you go 5, click, 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 4, click, 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 click. Okay, we went to that. And then from there, we graduated to the cordless phone. Now, the cordless phones weren't all cool like they were now. They were big and bulky. You had to pull out the antenna on them. You couldn't go very far from the station where it was housed at in your house. So then it went from that one. And then it went from completely wireless, no wireless phones on it at all. And then we started getting call waiting. And call waiting was a huge advancement. Because if you were a kid, a teenage girl in the 80s or the 90s, and you were on the phone for probably 2 or 3 hours at a time. And you know who you are. You girls were on the phone for 2 and 3 hours at a pop. And you couldn't get through. I remember I had this girl that I dated in junior high school, and her dad used to have to do an emergency breakthrough on the line because we would be on the phone for 2 hours, and he was just trying to talk to his wife for a quick second, ask a question, but he could never get through. So you'd be on the phone for a while, and then all of a sudden you hear operator would cut through your line and say, yeah, we have a emergency breakthrough from Samuel. And you have to get off the phone, dad could call, and then you'd answer the phone, and dad or mom would yell at you for being on the phone. I've been trying to call for an hour. All I do is get a busy signal. So the call waiting was a huge advancement. Then it was caller ID came through. And caller ID, prank calls just went right out the window. Because back when I was in junior high school, you can just dial anybody's telephone number and ask them weird questions and hang up the phone and giggle with your buddies. Couldn't do that with call waiting anymore or a caller ID. You had to do like *69 or something like that. But now it's all out there. You can't even do that anymore. So then went from the cordless phone. Then you had the mobile phone. The mobile phone, like the early 90s, were big and bulky. This, mass. Everybody's seen them in those old 80s movies, 90s movies, TV shows. Big and bulky. Only people that had a lot of money had those kind of phones. They had car phones. Regular people didn't have a car phone. And then finally switched into the regular cell phones where, it was, I remember my first cell phone was Primeco. Primeco is the original Verizon. And I was able to have my own 4-digit number at the end. And it was ERIC. It was 3742 was my number. And I thought, man, I'd like, hey, my number is 693-3742. Just dial 693 Eric. So that was a cell phone that I had. And then when I moved somewhere else in the state of Florida, they didn't have Primecore out there, and I couldn't use my cell phone, so I had to get rid of that. But the plan was awesome, right? It was like 75 minutes. I had 75 minutes on my first cell phone plan. That was it. So yeah, like the whole month was 75 minutes. You do that now before noon. You do 75 minutes. But the first incoming call was free. So when somebody would call me, I would have a countdown on my phone. And I would watch as I'm talking about like this. And as soon as I got to like 50 seconds, I'm like, call me back. Hang up the phone. They call me. Because the first month or so, 2 months, my phone bill was atrocious. Atrocious. You can't talk 75 minutes. Oh, you can't do 75 minutes. And then, they got the unlimited plans and all that. So all the technology, now your phones are basically computers now. Basically computers. You can do whatever you want on a cell phone. So the advancements on phones has come a long way. It's probably more advanced than most things that we've had. Okay. More advanced than the automobile. We went from gasoline cars, combustible engines to EVs. That's it. It's like one step. Nothing, I remember when I was 30 years ago, you're like, hey, where are you going to be in 30 years from now? You're thinking, wow, we're going to have flying cars for sure. when I was a senior in high school, like 30 years from now, we're going to have flying cars like the Jetsons for sure. Nope, didn't happen. Still filling up with gas at the old gasoline station. So that was one. Then we got the car radio. The car radio is a huge advancement as well. So, I mean, back in the day, it was just a radio. You only had a radio. And then it advanced to like the 8-track cassette. The 8-track cassette was a big, bulky, oh, golly, I can't remember. I don't know what, probably size of 3 loaves of bread stacked together. And you would shove that in the car radio. And then in order to go from one song to the next, you'd hit a button, cha-chunk, cha-chunk, and it would go to the next song on that 8-track. 8-track with the cassette. And then, everybody knows what a cassette tape is. It's about this size, maybe a little bit smaller. And you had 8 tracks. And then you had radios that you can actually automatic find, and you'd press the automatic find button on it, and it would be able to find whatever part of the song, whatever first song, second song, or third song. It would fast forward and stop right in front of the third song. So you didn't have to like forward and reverse just to find the beginning of the song. So that was a huge advancement. And then CDs came out. Oh man, I mean, if you were in the mid 90s and you had CDs, people had hundreds of CDs in their collection. Hundreds. I would borrow CDs from your friend all the time. Then you'd burn CDs to get your own, dupe the music yourself. Then went from CDs. Then you went to like the cassette tape you could put in there and hook up your CD player into the cassette tape if you didn't have one of those. And then from there, it went to Bluetooth. And then you started playing Bluetooth radio through your phone. So the advancements of that have gotten, way better. Now you don't even have car radios with cassettes or CD players. They're even talking about getting rid of AM radio because not a lot of people use AM radio. But I listen to it. Talk radio is pretty much on AM radio still. So they're talking about getting rid of AM radios inside cars because nobody uses them. And now we have what? Nobody really uses a Sirius XM. Not really. Who wants to pay for it? I think I still pay for it because I negotiated like a $4 a month rate or something like that for Sirius XM. I listen to 3 stations. That's about it. And it's not commercial free. I listen to Rock the Bells radio, LL Cool J radio, and I can't stand when they start talking. And they go on and on and on and on and on and on. Awful. Roxanne, you know her, Roxanne Shante. I can't stand when that chick starts talking. Brutal. She just goes on and on and on. Anyway, so all the advancements of radios, car radios have really come a long way. And then cell phones have come a long way. So those are the 2 things that we have in our personal life that we have huge advancements of. That's it. What else has been a huge advancement? Nothing really. Homes are pretty much the same. They're a little better insulated. That's about it. They're a little nicer inside, more kind of amenities in there, the cooler light switches. But that's about it. Cars, like I said, pretty much the same. You still got to put gas in them. They got more lights and gadgets and GPS and things like that. But that's it. GPS has started. It went to your phone. Now nobody even uses the TomToms anymore. I don't even know I don't know if TomTom is still in business. I haven't bought a regular GPS in 12 years. Everybody uses their phone. So the advancement that we've had for certain items have really gone a long way. And others, not so much. So when you think about what we can do in this country and in a free society, you got to look at things like that. Because this is where it all came from, right here in the US of A. Anyway, that's my observation of the day. Now for the conversation. Some cool Senate hearings came up. So the big one was RFKjr. Senate hearing yesterday in front of the health, board, Senate, whatever, Senate group, and for the Health and Human Services Secretary. I like RFKjr. Now, it's so weird seeing him getting yelled at by the Democrats. I mean, his father was a big-time Democrat, ran for president, was our attorney general as a Democrat. His uncle was the president of the United States. He's just one body away from those people. And yet, they treated him like he's a pariah. It's heartbreaking to watch. He was a Democrat. His whole family is a Democrat, right? Camelot, that whole family, they have a lot of tragedy. And there's a lot of shady things with that family, but they are kind of, mystically our royalty in America, the Kennedy family. And his cousin was going after him, saying all kinds of horrible things about the guy. This is your cousin. I couldn't imagine any of my first cousins going at me like that, saying the things she was saying about that guy. And it's sad. a few years ago, he was a toast of the Democratic Party. And then he decided to run for president as a Democrat, and they weren't having that. So he runs as an independent, had some success, but his really goal in life was what he said, that he wants to make our country healthier. He's been doing that, fighting for that, for over 35 years, suing pharmaceutical companies, suing waste companies, it's all these things that he's an advocate of, and he's just trying to make us healthy, getting rid of all the artificial preservatives that are in our food. We're the fattest nation on earth, and they're going after him. It was sad to watch. He handled himself great, but it was sad to watch. It's sad to see somebody who was from the family that he's from, and the left is going after him the way they were. Like, people don't understand. He can't change the world overnight, but he can certainly make things better and healthier for the United States. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to stop getting all these things out of our food and out of our water that could be potentially harmful to us? I'm all for it, because nobody ever really seems to have those concerns when they get those positions. They just get those positions because they're lucky enough to be there long enough, and they did a favor for somebody else, and now they have the positions. So let's give this guy a shot. I would love to see him there. Then you have Tulsi Gabbard going in there, and they've pegged her, the left has pegged her as some, our country's spy, and she's compromised. The woman was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army. Did a couple of tours. She's a hard charger. She was a Democrat for several years. She ran in the 2016 presidential campaign as a Democrat. So, she ate Kamala Harris's lunch on that one debate stage. Kamala had to drop out after that one. And now she's getting toasted up like she's a pariah. I just don't understand. This is what they do. If you watch politics enough, like I have, you'll know this is what they do. And the Democrats go hard. They go big time on these people. And it's just sad and disappointing to watch, because they just want to help the country out and give some of these people that aren't establishment people a chance to do the job. They can't do any worse than they're doing. Kash Patel was over there getting hammered as well. And he's going to be the FBI director, and they're going after him because he solved the whole R-Gate situation with that dossier. He figured it out. He found out where it came from, what political campaign funded it, who planted it, who lied. He found out all that information. He's been in law as a prosecutor when he was younger, as a public defender. So he's been in the government in different legal scholar positions for a very long time. And he wants to clean up our justice system. And I'm all for it. And they're just so afraid to let that go. Let that power go. Let that control go. So why not? We can't do any worse than we're doing right now. And if anybody's paying half attention to anything, the system is a little off. It's not what it should be. And that's sad. Now everybody's freaking out about Trump suggesting we send everybody, some of these displaced illegals that we have, to Guantanamo Bay, Gitmo. And people are freaking out because, where do we send people from the 9/11 and all the bad guys from the terror watch list and all that? We send them to Guantanamo Bay. The people don't understand about Guantanamo Bay. It's not just a facility to house prisoners. It's like a detention center. It was being used to hold migrants for many years, way before Trump even suggested this. They have another facility there that's not the prison, where the last few decades they've held Haitians and Cubans that have caught in the water. They needed to come back, or they're trying to escape, and they brought them back. And this is where they detained them. Now, they don't have a facility prepared for 30,000 people, but I'm sure they can figure it out. So when you look at sending the illegals to Guantanamo Bay, they're not going to prison, okay? They're going there to get processed, put through the system, and then from there, they're going to go out to the countries where they're supposed to go to. So I thought that was a brilliant idea. Why keep them here in the United States of America, send them over to Cuba and Guantanamo Bay, and process them out that way? I think that's brilliant. It's facilities meant for that. You got to probably build it out a little bit more. I'm sure that's not going to take too long with the Corps of Engineers from the United States Army. They could probably get that done very quickly. get the money and you build it, and that's where you house them all. Brilliant. And then it's going to scare the crap out of some of these immigrants that are over here going, man, I don't want to go to Gitmo. Nobody wants to go. It's got a bad rep. But it's not. It actually has facilities that are meant for immigrants to be processed. So don't lose your lunch over that. I like to end this with a little remembrance and thought of the people that have tragically died last night on Wednesday night on the American Airlines subflight, and the soldiers that were in the Black Hawk helicopter that collided in midair right outside of Ronald Reagan Airport. Awful. And you can see the video. They collided. We don't know what happened. It's just hard to believe how that could even happen. But all the lives were lost on that thing. Right now, they're trying to pull bodies out of the Potomac River. So our hearts and prayers go out to the family that have suffered through that, and let's remember them. Tragedies like this, hopefully, to help. They hurt, but sometimes they could bring out the best in people, and our country is pretty resourceful when it comes to things like that. Well, that's my conversation today. Join me next time for a little chit chat, some observation, and some good old fashioned conversation. Don't forget, subscribe, follow us, like us, and pass it along to a friend. I appreciate it. Thanks.